Right, great. So viewers, now we are getting into some conversations about World Food Day because, and if we in Tobago like to do World Food Day big. So the theme for this year is Water is Life, Water is Food, Leave No One Behind. And we are being joined by Dr. Paul Crooks, who is going to be talking to us about, yeah, World Food Day. So good morning and welcome to you, Dr. Crooks. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Sorry that I couldn't be there in studio this morning.
That's fine. But we're glad that you can still join us regardless. Now, tell me a bit because, I mean, we're doing things a little bit differently this year. So we're still having that exhibition, but it's going to be in a little bit of a smaller scale happening at the Food Hub starting from tomorrow.
So we are officially open on Wednesday and Thursday, tomorrow and the following day, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I don't know if it's necessarily fair to say it's a smaller scale. We definitely have fewer tents than we had in prior years. But we just last night went over our list of persons who applied to be part of our World Food Day, and the majority of persons we were able to accommodate. The division and some collaborating entities are going to be contained within the food hub itself under the covered area. We're going to have food vendors, artisanal persons, and so on outside of those areas. And we're going to occupy the entire car park area with tents. So we're going to have this year a brand new aquaponics display. We're going to have our traditional livestock display as well as our wildlife display. So for 2023, we're going to have everything that we've had in prior years and new things. So again, it's not necessarily that we're looking at a smaller scale product. We're looking at a very similar product to prior years, and we are looking at a more condensed, I want to say focused approach this year.
All right, great. And I want to talk about the theme a little bit. What is life? What is food? Leave no one behind. How are we incorporating that theme into this year's exhibition?
Well, there are a few ways. One is that, of course, we are more dynamic this year than we've been before. Water is ever changing. Water flows in different courses. We know that water is both destructive and creative. And when we decided that we would be moving from the traditional location of the parade grounds to the uh, food hub, the understanding and thought process was that we are going to be dynamic and we want to not only are we going to display the theme proudly on entry, where we'll have our fisheries team showing deboning of fish and various other forms of fish preparation, smoked fish, and so on, right as you enter the Food Hub Grand Exhibition location. But we're going to have aquaria and so on to showcase this is what fisheries is about. But also, as I said, if we look more metaphorically, we are looking at water changing, water evolving, water creating, water making things new. And accordingly, we are focused this year less on a fair type, market type setup, which will still be there, but we want to encourage farmers to grow. We don't want to leave anyone behind. For this year, we're going to include our incentives unit, business development unit. We're pushing that farmers can make their businesses into thriving businesses, into growing businesses with branding and marketing and with financial support. And this year, we're really pushing education and business development as our theme.
Now, what is there in store in terms of helping farmers understand how to better use or get water in a way to or at least sustainably use water in terms of growing their crops, because we are in a situation where the temperatures are getting hotter and we're getting less rainfall, especially for this year. We had quite a lot of rainfall last year, but this year we do have less, and it's been very hot.
Oh yeah, we've been dealing with drought conditions, and I mean, it may not seem like droughts because we live in the tropics and we get rain every 5 days, but it's so hot that the water evaporates so rapidly that
Mhm.
in the dry season in particular, the ground becomes parched, dry, and hard within just 2 or 3 days, even though you've just had tons of rainfall and the ground was just waterlogged. So, with that in mind, and with the increasingly high temperatures and reduced rainfall, we have to apply water conservation techniques. For the livestock part of it, which I can speak to directly, we have someone coming to demonstrate silage. What is silage? Silage is a forage preservation technique so that we've had a lot of livestock farmers who would sell out their lambs, sell out their goats at the start of the dry season because they simply can't care for that number because they know they're not going to have enough feed. Silage allows, and that's a technology that embraces the preservation of forage for those dry conditions, for those periods where forage is not available. So we're going to have silage production on display so that people can learn about silage and how they could perhaps use silage at home and produce silage at home. But also, we're going to have all of our various entities, all of the divisions, various sections displaying strategies for sustainable development of farms. So, not just are we going to be talking about finances and so on, but sustainable development in terms of waste management and of water conservation techniques. We recognize that that is extremely important, and that is included this year.
All right, great. And what are some of the other things that we can look forward for this year at the World Food Day exhibition?
Well, I already mentioned that we'll have aquaponics and hydroponics display. Those are aquaponics and hydroponics, for people who don't know, those are technologies that use little or no soil whatsoever. In the case of aquaponics, nutrients for the growth of lettuce and some other special types of plants that are able to grow in that way, nutrients are derived from fish and the fish feces and their excreta. The fish produce nutrients that are utilized by plants, and the plants are grown out of pipes where it's just water that's providing the nutrients, so that the plants themselves don't need any soil. It allows that you can grow vertically, and you can, of course, use less land. And this is part of the future of agriculture because we're using waste from fish and we're using little soil and we're going vertically so that you can have more food production in a smaller area. And so people who have just a small backyard, just a ceiling, or I mean a roof or so that they could access, these people may be able to set up aquaponic displays, their aquaponics setups, and grow their own food at home. And that's one of the ways that we are embracing water is life, water is food, leave no one behind, because we want people to understand that there are new technologies that allows everyone to grow their own, and that allows cheap, sustainable, with limited water, access to and production of food and good, safe food. So that's one of the ways. So that's a brand new thing. Of course, we're going to have our equipment displays. We're going to have persons from various, like Massey, Answer, displaying vehicles, that sort of thing. We're going to have financial companies there like FCB, ADB, who will be on hand to tell you how they can help you grow your business. And of course, we're still going to have tons of food, local foods, local snacks. We're going to have lots of produce on sale. We won't have plants on sale because of the giant African snail scourge, but that will be coming in its own show.
Now, would there be any sort of educational exercises happening, teaching people how to address the giant African snail? Because unfortunately, it's becoming a widespread problem in Tobago.
Yeah, we will have a plant protection unit display where there will be documentation about the giant African snail, how to recognize the giant African snail, the number to call if you think you've seen the giant African snail, as well as the various strategies that can be employed for the management of giant African snail, because we recognize it is a huge problem on the island. I have snails right in my yard now,
Wow.
unfortunately. So we've been seeing more and more cases of giant African snail across the island. We've had now possibly about 8 to 10 locations on the island where we have had infestations. We had one in Lambo for over 10 years. We have not been able to eliminate even at that site. So it is something that will take a long time, and we all have to work together.
Well, it seems as though every time that we try to make some strides in the field of agriculture, there's always these problems, whether it just be the climate, whether it just be pests or diseases that keep trying to, put a stumbling block in our progress.
Oh, yeah. Last week, I was fortunate enough to be part of the Caribbean Week of Agriculture in the Bahamas.
Mhm.
And at that Caribbean Week of Agriculture, there were chief vets from across the region. We had ministers of agriculture from across the region, representatives from the Food and Agriculture Organization, from the United Nations Food Program. So U.S. Department of Agriculture, with all of these agencies there, and with the political will and power that was in that meeting or in those meetings, we had discussions about adaptations to climate change. How is it that we can ensure that our region is food secure with all of the challenges that are coming? What happens in the case of hurricanes? So what we learned, for example, is that there is a regional insurance scheme that is growing in popularity that supports the governments. The governments can pay into this insurance scheme. And in the case of certain natural events, natural phenomena, these insurance schemes can pay out immediately on the occurrence of the natural event, and then after assessment of farms and so on, they can pay to each individual farmer. So their monies can come to the government straight away, so we can try to make things right. But it's across the region, it's across the world. We've been trying to think of ways to adapt, learn, grow. We may have to change the types of forage we grow. We may have to look at different breeds, more resilient breeds. These are the kinds of strategies that we have to think about. So even that silage that I mentioned, because I am in charge of the livestock aspect, so I could tell you some details there. But even that silage production is part of our adaptation strategies for climate change. But of course, the world is becoming more and more globalized. So how do we ensure that diseases from Panama don't make it to Trinidad and Tobago? How do we stop persons illegally smuggling things in? But at the same time, how do we make it easier for food from Tobago to make it to Dominica, or for food grown in Haiti to come to Barbados? How do we make that easier when it's done well and done correctly? But also, how do we make it more difficult to prevent new diseases coming in? So these are a lot of challenges that we have to face across the region, but we've been trying to deal with them in that way.
All right. And what are some of the other things that we can look forward to? Because I know that World Food Day is not just centered around those 2 days, which is tomorrow and Thursday. I kind of forgot the days of the week for a second. But anyways, could you just
Me
give us an
too.
idea of some of the other plans that are happening that is World Food Day related that will occur after the 2-day exhibition?
Sure. So we still have our horticulture event, which should be on November 7th. And at that horticulture event, all plants will be sold. The reason that we're going that route, as I had mentioned earlier, was because of giant African snail primarily. So we're going to ask people to come this Sunday, November 5th, and sell all their plants as if it's ready for sale from that Sunday. Then we're going to have our staff come in and treat the plants to make sure the plants have no live giant African snails. And then the plants will actually go on sale from Tuesday, so that the plants are treated, one, so that there are no giant African snails, but two, also safe to handle, safe to carry home, so that persons are not exposed to any pesticides at that time. So we have that strategy now for handling the giant African snail. So unfortunately, you won't be able to get plants at this year's Grand Exhibition, but you will get them at the horticulture market coming up on November 7th. So that's one way that we change, and that's one thing that's happening after. For the Lamb Festival, we were planning to do some competitions that unfortunately we could not get done at the time. So we had mentioned that we wanted to do a video competition for junior farmers who are 18 to 30 years old, as well as a video competition for all women farmers, regardless of age, where the farmers would tell us about why they chose livestock farming, what's rewarding in it for them, what were the challenges they faced, how they overcame those challenges. So that competition is going to occur after World Food Day. As well, we're going to have a competition on housing design, on organic waste management, where people are not, they don't have to construct anything, but they have to design something on paper and submit that. So we have those competitions occurring after World Food Day. And finally, we also have competitions for 4-H, a school competition that will occur from November and go throughout the next year up to the following World Food Day. So those are some of the events we have. We also have various seminars and so on. Again, that will be through targeted marketing. We'll have seminars occurring throughout the month of November.
And I mean, it's great to see that the 4-H initiative is coming along. Can you just give us an update on how has that been, especially coming out of COVID and so on, and getting it reinvigorated?
Well, that's part of the challenge, right? For World Food Day this year, we did want to really incorporate 4-H. Unfortunately, we didn't have an officer who was able to take that uh, further for this year's grand exhibition. But we now have an officer who will be handling 4-H going forward. So we really plan to get back into schools, work alongside our teachers, and continue to push 4-H. Of course, we had a number of other events before. We had a school poetry and spoken word competition earlier in September, and that was a way to include our students in both primary and secondary schools. So we didn't neglect or forget our students. Of course, there will be also a big educational component at World Food Day for children. So we have school kids coming in throughout both days. They will get to see animals they've never seen before. They'll get to learn about the different sexes, the different names of species. They'll get to learn about the types of products that animals give off while they're farmed, the names of the various types of meat. So these are some of the ways that we plan to incorporate students. But now that 4-H, we have a 4-H officer back in place, we really plan to push forward by getting into schools, interacting with students, pushing the 4-H clubs, and developing agriculture in the minds of our children.
All right, great. And I mean, just before we go, Dr. Crooks, I just want to you to give the information about tomorrow's events tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday. Sorry, getting the days mixed up again in my head. But yeah, just so the public is aware.
All right. So tomorrow and Thursday are the World Food Day Grand Exhibition days. We are open officially from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on both days. There are a variety of activities that appeal to everyone from every walk of life, whatever your interest may be. We are asking that people pay particular attention to the change in venue this year. We were at the parade grounds for several years prior, but for this year, we are going to be at the Shore Park Food Hub. The Shore Park Food Hub is located between the Spring Garden gas station and the Shore Park Cultural Complex. Parking will be at the Shore Park Cultural Complex, and you will have to cross. We'll have police presence. It'll be very safe. You'll have to cross over to the Food Hub location. And then from there, you can walk around. We'll have many vendors selling local products, locally made foods. We'll have many persons displaying equipment. We'll have cooked food. We'll have baked goods. We're going to have fresh produce, everything that you could imagine except for plants associated with agriculture and food and food production will be available at the Grand Exhibition. So there will be something for everyone. As well, we're going to have live animals displayed, breeds of various types of small ruminants, of rabbits, different species of poultry. We're going to have a wildlife display. We're going to have new technologies displayed like aquaponics and hydroponics. We're going to have water conservation techniques being taught. We're going to have cultural items throughout the day. We're going to have demonstrations of cocoa production, farine production. So there's just a lot that's going to be happening. So when you come down to the World Food Day event, you never even have to leave. Just Lime whole day, plenty things happening.
All right, great. Now, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Crooks, for being on with us this morning and for giving us an idea of what we can expect for this year. It's going to be a little bit different this year, but still going to be the same World Food Day magic that we all know and love. And I know that certainly a lot of people always look forward to it in Tobago. So thank you again for being on.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, viewers, so there you have it. Just make sure to check out what's happening tomorrow and Thursday. And just before we get ready to go, I just, of course, want to remind you of just some traffic restrictions which are in place. And this is at Okinskyo Buku Bay, Okinskyo Junction. And of course, this is from TIMA. Please be advised that the Okinskyo Buku Bay Road is closed to vehicular traffic. The situation has arisen due to a vehicular accident in the vicinity, resulting in debris remaining on the road. We have promptly alerted the appropriate authorities, and efforts are currently underway to clean up and address the situation. So motorists are being advised to seek alternative routes until the situation is rectified. So viewers, if you're going to be passing through that area this morning, just be aware that that you should probably find an next route. Plan to get to your destination, right? Until the authorities can sort of clear things up for you. All right, viewers, so thank you for being with us. It was a pleasure being on with you, and I hope you have a safe and wonderful day, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.